July, we're in July. The 13th of July, 1917 is one of the richest in terms of content. Besides the many themes that are present also in other apparitions, it contains the secret of Fatima, a secret in three parts, the last of which is sometimes improperly called the third secret, but in reality it's simply the third part of the secret. Because of this is the apparition which has been the source of the most controversy, a controversy which in reality distracts from the essential message of Fatima. But let's start at the beginning. So this apparition, Sister Lucia tells us, started just a few minutes after the children arrived in the Cova d'Iria. And as in previous apparitions, Our Lady Lucia began by asking the lady what she wanted of her. This was as Lucia explains, this was the usual thing you did with someone you met who was a stranger. You asked, "Where are you from?" and, "What do you want of me?" And she replied, I want you to come here on the 13th of next month to continue to pray the Rosary every day in honor of Our Lady of the Rosary, in order to obtain peace for the world and the end of the war, the First World War, of course, because only she can help you. Only Our Lady of the Rosary can help you. So in all 6 apparitions from May to October, Our Lady asked for the Rosary to be prayed for every day for peace. Now, if you see, so this is something that we see as an important part of the message of Fatima. We know it's important because it's being repeated every time. Every month, Our Lady asked, pray the Rosary for peace. Pray the Rosary every day for peace. And so, this is the first thing that we should take away from the message of Fatima. If we see wars in the world, pray the Rosary. If we see terrorism, something very much akin to war, pray the Rosary to obtain the end of this. This is whatever we see that we need peace, perhaps even for peace in our families, we could pray the Rosary. Then Lucia asked the other standard question. She asked the lady who she was, because still she hadn't given her name. And Lucia also requested a miracle so that everyone would be able to believe. But the answer to these two was put off until October. So those requests would be satisfied in October, but for the moment, it's not the time. And then Lucia made some other requests on behalf of some people who had asked her to present their requests to Our Lady, to intercede with Our Lady in some, and got the answer that they should pray the Rosary in order to obtain these graces. So once again, this insistence, pray the Rosary to obtain the graces that you need. And of course, that's why we pray the Rosary so much at the Day with Mary. We would hardly be faithful to the message of Fatima if we weren't praying the Rosary a lot. And then comes another important part of the message of Fatima. Our Lady said, sacrifice yourself for sinners, and say many times, especially whenever you make some sacrifice, "O Jesus, it is for love of you, for the conversion of sinners, and in reparation for the sins committed against the Immaculate Heart of Mary." That very same sacrifice prayer that we said after the Eucharistic procession. And once again, repetition shows us the importance of this, of sacrificing oneself for sinners. It's a request that was made even before Our Lady appeared in the second apparition of the angels. So a year before this apparition, this July apparition that we're talking about, in the height of the summer of 1916, on a hot day, an angel appeared to the children and told them, among other things, that they should be sacrificing, be offering everything they could as a sacrifice. What's new in the July apparition is the sacrifice prayer. And so this is important. It helps them to offer up their sacrifices for the right intention. The standard formulas are good at helping us to formulate the right intention. The standard act of contrition that we use in the confessional, or this sacrifice prayer to guide our sacrifices so that they're being offered in the right way for the right purpose. And then comes the secret of Fatima. The secret of Fatima consists of 2 visions separated by an explanation. So the first part of the secret obviously serves the purpose of motivating the children to sacrifice themselves for sinners. It's the vision of hell. The children, Our Lady opens her hands, and they see, they look down and they see hell. And it's a vision that's really so terrifying that Lucia says that she thinks they would have died of fear if it hadn't been for the fact that Our Lady had already, from the first apparition, assured the children of heaven. So really a terrifying vision, this. But this vision of hell, why was it given to the children? Not for their own conversion, because they'd already been guaranteed heaven. It was given to them so that they would be motivated to sacrifice themselves for sinners. And we see that Blessed Jacinta was very much struck by this vision, very much struck by the plight of sinners who would go to this horrible place if their conversion couldn't be obtained. And so she was ready to sacrifice herself in so many ways in order to obtain that. Then the second part of the secret consists of explanation and prophecies. Our Lady began, "You have seen hell, where the souls of poor sinners go. To save them, God wishes to establish in the world devotion to my Immaculate Heart. If what I say to you is done, many souls will be saved, and there will be peace." She then says that the First World War will soon come to an end, but that if people do not stop offending God, there will be another war. Well, that's an important lesson of Fatima. Why are there wars in the world? Well, because of sin. When people offend God, then God withdraws his protecting hand, and violence begins to spread throughout the world. She continues, Our Lady continues, to prevent this, I shall come to ask for the consecration of Russia to my Immaculate Heart, and for the communion of reparation on the first Saturdays. If my requests are heeded, Russia will be converted, and there will be peace. If not, she will spread her errors throughout the world, causing wars and persecutions of the Church. The good will be martyred, the Holy Father will have much to suffer, various nations will be annihilated. So remember that all this was kept secret until 1941. This wasn't part of the initial public message. This shows us that it's not really all that central to the Fatima message. The first thing that we need to get is this message that to pray the Rosary for peace, to sacrifice ourselves for sinners. These are things that are fundamental to the message of Fatima. This, the secret tells us something about the future, but it's not really the most important thing in the message. So in 1925, Sister Lucia had that promised apparition that was called for the communion of reparation on first Saturdays. It was now time for that. So now that begins to be added to the message, to the public message of Fatima, starting in 1925. And then a few years later, Our Lady appeared to Sister Lucia again to ask her, this time for the conversion of Russia to her Immaculate Heart. The time had then come to call for that. Remember that this was intended in the first place to prevent the Second World War, and so that's why it comes in the late 1920s, in time to prevent the outbreak of the events that would eventually lead to that war. And also it was to prevent Russia from spreading her errors in many ways, overt and covert. And already in those years, Russia was beginning to send its intelligence agents abroad, beginning to spread disinformation, and it would continue to do that over the years. One thing that the Soviet Union did that was of particular importance or particular relevance to our situation today was disinformation operations, spreading as information things that were actually false. They had operations aimed in particular at stirring up Muslim extremism, especially against Jews and against the United States, who they tried to present as a pawn of the Jews. This especially in the 1970s. And then that secret continues a bit, and then comes the third part of the secret, which was revealed in I believe it was 2000. It's a vision that expands on the words of Our Lady, words which spoke of wars, of persecutions of the Church, of martyrdom, of sufferings for the Holy Father, and even of the annihilation of nations. How would nations be annihilated? It would seem that this refers to the nuclear war. So there, in 1917, the vision doesn't show a nuclear war explicitly. It shows an angel with a flaming sword in his left hand, a sword that is flashing and it gives out flames of fire, and that looked as though they would set the world on fire. And that indeed is what a nuclear war quite literally would do, is set the world ablaze with this terrible fire. And the only way to prevent that threat of nuclear war, obviously the consecration to Our Lady, devotion to the Immaculate Heart is part of this, but penance, 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 that's what puts off a nuclear war. So then there are other elements in there as well, a steep mountain that clergy and religious are climbing, a big city that is half in ruins, the Holy Father who is suffering. There are corpses, there are many martyrs whose blood then benefits those making their way to God. So I don't intend to speak in detail about that secret, because my point is that this isn't the most important part of the message of Fatima. It's certainly part of the message, and so we should take an interest in that too, but we shouldn't let it distract us from the most important things, which are the prayer, the penance, the devotion to the Immaculate Heart, that are really the main things that Our Lady, that God is trying to achieve through this apparition of Our Lady. One of the things that's been given a disproportionate amount of attention is this controversy over whether or not Russia was actually consecrated, because Pope John Paul in 1984 didn't say the word Russia, so perhaps what he said didn't count. And so, but Sister Lucia has been quite clear that this is that the consecration was made in that year as Our Lady asked, and that it has been accepted by heaven. So I wanted to go through here 7 times that, since this has been disputed, we need to sort of repeat the evidence in favor of it. So the first thing, after the consecration of the 25th of March 1984, the Apostolic Nuncio came to Sister Lucia. She talks about this in an interview that she gave with Father Robert Fox for the Fatima Family Messenger, the Fatima magazine in the United States. And so the Apostolic Nuncio, on behalf of the Pope, asked her, "Is Russia now consecrated?" And she said, "Yes, it is. Now it is." Because there had been some previous attempts to consecrate before 1984, but it was this 25th March 1984 that was the definitive one. And so then, perhaps even at the request of the nuncio, on the 8th of November of 1989, Sister Lucia sent a letter to Pope John Paul II in which she said that the consecration on the 25th of March was done as Our Lady requested. And once again, they wanted the International Catholic Journal 30 Days or 30 Giorni, based in Italy, in 1990, informed its readers that they'd obtained from Sister Lucia 3 letters that she wrote on the topic of this consecration, and in all 3, Sister Lucia recognized it as valid. Once again, in the 9th of January 2002, the English edition of the Osservatore Romano on page 7 has a report of Archbishop Bertoni's conversation with Sister Lucia on the 17th of November 2001 at the Carmelite convent in Coimbra. So he asked her about these collections of signatures to petition the Holy See to consecrate Russia as if it had never been done. And she responded, "The Carmelite community has rejected all forms for the collection of signatures. I have already said that the consecration desired by Our Lady was made in 1984 and has been accepted in heaven." And so then once again, Archbishop Bertoni gave an interview to the magazine Inside the Vatican, based in the United States, or based in Italy, but distributed internationally, in which he recalled his meeting with Sister Lucia in November of 2001, and said that Sister Lucia said that the consecration was completed as the Virgin Mary desired. She also said that the consecration was, I quote using her words, accepted by heaven. And then yet another interview with Cardinal Bertoni. It asks, asked about whether it's true that Sister Lucia saw the Virgin Mary on other occasions after 1917. And of course she did. I've mentioned those apparitions which called for the the devotion of the first 5 Saturdays and for the consecration of Russia. And Cardinal Bertoni says, yes, without a doubt, she did have other visions, and she herself confirmed this to me. And then he was asked for an example, and the example is quite interesting. An apparition in which the Virgin showed Sister Lucia that she accepted and was pleased with John Paul II's consecration of the world and Russia to her Immaculate Heart. And then yet another one is, yet another testimony comes from Father Condor, who used to be, until his death, the vice postulator of the causes of Francisco and Jacinta. And so the Pope asked if anyone, soon after he had made that consecration, he tried to get confirmation that was indeed acceptable. And so Father Condor, who had telephoned Sister Lucia right after the consecration, had spoken to her, and she said that yes, the Pope has filled the request of Our Lady, and heaven has accepted it. So, fairly obviously, that vision of heaven accepting it must have come right after the consecration. And then on later, Father Condor asked her, how do we know? And Sister Lucia replied, look to the east. So where is the proof that the consecration has been made? It is in basically the collapse of the communist bloc. That's why if you go to Fatima, you'll see a piece of the Berlin Wall there as a proof of what happened at the beginning of Our Lady's work. Now, I wouldn't say that the triumph of the Mary's Immaculate Heart is complete yet. Pope Benedict, when he visited Fatima, said that Fatima was still relevant, that it was not a story that was finished, and so we expect further developments, but already there is indeed a beginning. And if we wish to do that, if we wish to see these further developments, what we should do is respond to Our Lady's basic requests. We should pray the Rosary every day for peace. I mean, that was especially to obtain the end of the First World War, but certainly there's no shortage of wars in the world today. You should sacrifice yourself for sinners, because there are so many poor sinners who go to hell, and it's such a terrible place. And you should spread devotion to the Immaculate Heart. If you do this, then you can be guaranteed that you're doing something that is pleasing to Our Lady, and something that will truly help to obtain the triumph of her Immaculate Heart in all of its dimensions. Praised be Jesus and Mary.
State et videte qualium suavis est Domini.